Donald Trump has had to use his executive authority to take a look under the hood, to look at the books. And what did he find? This small little agency called USAID, that doesn't even register on the Richter scale of expenditures in this country. And he found the most egregious fraud, waste, and abuse. And he's doing that from the executive branch.
What does Congress need to do the rest of this calendar year to make sure that the reforms that the Secretary and the President have initiated in the Defense Department actually become permanent?
I couldn't agree more with what Keith said. That the warrior ethos is something that I live by, that he lived by, that we know. We had conflicts that we don't want to get involved in, but I think there's a couple of things that need to happen. Number one, we need to recapitalize the military in a way that pushes distractions aside. I'm still a reserve officer, and there's a lot of distractions that are out there. And through the National Defense Authorization Act, through the legislative efforts that we have, we can help push those distractions aside, get on board with what President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, who I know very well, are trying to do, which is get us ready, get us as strong as we can be, and have deterrence. Everything we do should be about deterring the next war. We are only as successful as not fighting that next war, as having a credible, which by the way, does anybody think Donald Trump is not credible about what when he says stuff, people, they believe that he is going to do it. The credibility is there. Less than 10,000 illegal aliens were encountered last month in February of 2025. It was 150, 160, and almost 200,000 in the 3 preceding years. It didn't take new legislation. It took a credible deterrent. So with that, making sure that Congress appropriates the right money and solidifies what their agenda is, our military is going to be stronger than ever. We're going to be prouder than we've ever been, and it's going to be a merit-based organization once again.
Which is a truly, not just bipartisan, or ought to be bipartisan, but a nonpartisan goal that by definition transcends whatever politics might be at play in next year's midterms. This is one of the key areas where, as we build this coalition, not just for the sake of good guys like the two of you winning elections, but for building a movement for the next generation or two that represents like a 60-40 majority, this is really key. And I think it's really smart on the president's part to really emphasize that. I've got other questions, but I can ask y'all those another time. And so I'm gonna ask my wonderful colleagues in the back with microphones to go around to any of you who raise your hand. We're gonna get through as many questions as we can. Remember, comments in the form of a very short question so we can get to as many as possible. Yes, sir. Microphone's coming to you.
I was just wondering, as Biden was leaving office, he set out to basically cut off the entire Gulf Coast from exploration and drilling, I understood, and that might be very hard to undo because it would take Congress. Do you know the status of that, or familiar with where he tried to tie up the leases or anything more in the Gulf Coast?
Sure, I'll give it a go. I sit on the Energy and Commerce Committee, the oldest committee in Congress, and its work is right in the heart of the industry that you're talking about. And he did. He had a salvo of weaponized policies, regulations, rules, and otherwise that were meant to destroy the industry. We have already passed a number of pieces of legislation to undo those in the form of congressional review acts. I had one last week, and that was on the methane rule. If anybody knows what the natural gas tax is, this was bipartisan. Even Democrats voted because they didn't appreciate what Biden did. When it comes to offshore drilling, you bet we're going to undo it, not only with executive order, which the president has already moved to do that, but we're also going to work to make sure that those lease sales, that we codify the ability in places like Alaska on federal lands with BLM usage, as well as in the Gulf Coast, that these lease sales continue. So yes, it will be an EO, executive order, and also a legislative approach.
Yeah, that wasn't the only thing Biden did. He tried to give $20 billion to go to NGOs through a third party. We've stopped that. The administration stopped that. So, I mean, there are several things that he tried to do that we are unwinding, either the administration or Congress, through these CRAs that August mentioned. By the way, I believe the oldest committee in Congress is the Foreign Affairs Committee, which Benjamin Franklin chaired.
Well, we'll do some fact checking later.
I knew the Army Air Force thing was going to come out again. Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am. Microphone's coming your way. Thank you.
Congressman Self, is it on? Oh, by the way, right, sorry. Congressman Self, I'm just privileged to have you representing me in Congress, and I have confidence in you. I know this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart. We've had some talk today about tax cuts. I'm very concerned about our, $36 trillion in federal debt that's unsustainable. We're not the only country that's this way, but I know that you care about this. How do you see us digging our way out of the hole, other than just to stop digging?
That's the reconciliation package to begin with. Well, it's not to begin with that. It's the CR, the continuing resolution, which I'm going to vote for. I have never voted for a CR. But I want to get the rest of the FY25 budget in Trump's hands as soon as possible so he can start impounding spending that he doesn't think we need to do, so they can start taking care of that fraud, waste, and abuse. Everything's there that you're seeing through DOGE, but this will give him the impoundment authority through the budget. Next is the reconciliation package, the $2 trillion that August was talking about. Each committee, there's about 9 committees, I believe, that have a target number. 80 billion here. The largest one is the Ways and Means Committee, of course. They're going to start working toward that number, and then we will pass it as a Republican conference, probably along a partisan vote. It'll go to the Senate, and hopefully we can not lose 3 senators. And if we do, we get the vice president to vote. So that's the beginning. And then we have the FY26 budget that they're working on even as we speak, that we are supposed to have done out of the House by the last day of June so it can go to the Senate. So this is a very complex environment we're in right now with budgeting. We've got the CR first, the reconciliation package, and then the FY26 budget. But President Trump is committed to this. So the first thing we've got to do is take the axe to the spending, because we're still adding $2 trillion a year. If the last Biden budget went through, folks, we'd go from 36 trillion to more than 50 trillion in the next 10 years. You talk about unsustainable. We're already spending more on interest than we are on defense, which used to be the largest discretionary line. Now, interest is not discretionary, but it is larger than the largest discretionary line item right now. So we must do something. We're at the tipping point, folks. This is an existential threat to our republic. We must do something in this Congress. Thank you for the question.
Can I add something to this? I'm sure that Keith gets this comment, and many of you have maybe said it as well. I certainly get it in Midland and San Angelo in my district. Why can't you Republicans stick together? Okay.
We've heard that once or twice.
I hear a little laughter. Guys, we have stuck together better than I've ever seen on this reconciliation bill. And I'm going to tell you that the glue that underpins that foundation of sticking together is right here in this room. It is the work that Kevin is doing. It is the work that Heritage is doing. Over the past few months, we have been piecing this bill together, and the expertise about how much can we get in tax cuts. There's a piece of the math that goes into that. How much can we get on the Energy and Commerce Committee when we reform the fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid? When we don't allow able-bodied adults to work, when we do these things. I have been spending a tremendous amount of time with the experts at Heritage to understand what that math problem looks like. That has been communicated to everybody in our conference, where we all got together and said, yes. The most moderate of moderate Republicans in New York on Staten Island, who is in a Biden district. I mean, we're talking this district was won by Biden, or the most conservative districts that you can find in the country right here in Texas. Heck, we came together. all 220 of us, we came together and said yes. And it's because of the work that Heritage is doing to educate and communicate that to us.
Well, thanks for the compliment. We cannot do that without men like the two of you, first of all, being willing to run for office, and secondly, being willing to take some hard votes. We exist at Heritage in service to the people you see in this room and hundreds of thousands of others. If we're working in service to them, we're working in service to you. And I'm just going to repay the compliment. And none of us blow smoke. When y'all have something that you've got a question about, and sometimes it's a hard question, like it might be a difference of opinion, just tactical. We have an identical worldview. Sometimes we have questions for y'all. We just pick up the phone and call each other. It's an amazing concept that DC works a little bit better when you just talk to one another. In fact, I won't go into the details, but last summer when this little project we were doing, you've never heard of it, called Project 2025 was going on. Keith called me, it was a Saturday. I was hog hunting with my soon-to-be son-in-law and son, and coming out, we were skunked. We saw some hogs, but missed them. And Keith called me, and he said, Kevin, I just have to give you some feedback. People are confused about this. And I said, Keith, I have no idea what you're talking about. There's a little bit of a pause, and then he said, it'll be okay, just keep doing what you're doing. It's that kind of thing. The point is, the encouragement is important, but being really substantive about what's at stake. But very importantly, and these two men do this and their staffs do it, they have a plan for how we're going to get from here to there. It's what you've been demanding, whether you're constituents or whether you're supporters, your friends, whatever you are. And really, Ryan Walker and I, who spend a lot of time on the Hill, guiding our respective teams at the Foundation in Action, really count on these guys and a growing number of their colleagues to get things done. All of that to say, we have time for one more question. And you win, sir.
So Elon Musk has promised to cut $2 trillion to help with the budgeting. Is that realistic? And number two, is this a one-time effort, or will Congress institute DOGE to be an annual thing going forward?
All right, last question's an easy one, gentlemen.
$2 trillion ought to be easy. Y'all have seen what he's finding, and he's not even finished yet. But the president has also said that once we have confirmed secretaries, they are in charge of their departments. Elon is making recommendations to the secretaries now. Now, he started out doing it himself because we didn't have any confirmed secretaries. Now the president's very clear, the secretaries are in charge of doing that. So $2 trillion absolutely is doable. Frankly, the State Department, USAID, the person in charge of USAID told a small group of us that criminal referrals are coming in the USAID area. They're coming. So now, my last statement, then I'll let August weigh in, is Congress has got to codify these, whether it be in the reconciliation package, whether it be in individual bills, because if the next president, if God forbid we have another Biden-esque president next, they can overturn all the EOs. We want to codify as much of this into law as possible. August?
Couldn't agree more. It should be easy. It can't be a one-time thing. We have to get Article 1 authority back. What does that mean? For the last 4 years, I have had Biden administration officials come up and testify. Mayorkas, the absolute worst. I mean, I know that's shocking to everybody. Jennifer Granholm, I asked her a simple question. How much electricity does the United States use on an annual basis? You would think if you're running for the highest energy position in the US, you'd know that. They wouldn't answer a single question, much less show us the books. Donald Trump has had to use his executive authority to take a look under the hood, to look at the books. And what did he find? This small little agency called USAID, that doesn't even register on the Richter scale of expenditures in this country. And he found the most egregious fraud, waste, and abuse. And he's doing that from the executive branch. Keith is right. In order to get back into balance, a 3-part, co-equal branches of government system that was founded 250 years ago, we as Congress have to get back into the business of effective oversight, They're taking a sledgehammer to it. It seems like it's not fair. All these people losing their jobs. Okay, guess what? If we don't do that, we're never going to be able to do it. This is our moment. I believe every agency should have to justify its existence every Congress. They should come before Congress and stand up and say, you know what? The reason we need the Department of Energy is because of this. Maybe they make the case, maybe they don't. Now that sounds simple. It's a little naive, but what President Trump is doing is getting us back into balance, what Congress now has to do. And this is why 2 years, folks, is not enough for a House majority. 2 years is not enough. We need 20 years to undo what has systematically been done to our country. Great question.
Can I add just a...
Of course.
And I have to tell you, what you do is vitally important, because I had a town hall. The counterattack is ferocious, folks. I had a town hall last Saturday that they filled it. It was what you're hearing. I won't go into it. And my chief called me while I was on the way here, and she sent me the voice recording of a death threat to me and to my wife. So I want you to know how important what you're doing is, so he has the voice to overcome that. Folks, the counterattack is brutal. We need you in the fight.
Well, yes, that deserves a round of applause. Just join me in thanking them for taking some time out of their schedules. Keith Self and August Pfluger.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The Kevin Roberts Show is brought to you by more than 10 million supporters of the Heritage Foundation. The executive producer is Crystal Kate Bonham. Sound design by Lauren Evans, Mark Guiney, Tim Kennedy, and Joseph Fonspakowski. For more information and to subscribe, please visit heritage.org.